So, there's been reports of missing people in my hometown. This trend of people disappearing tend to be in high school or college, usually with no warning. We're talking about people that seem to have just vanished out of their beds or from work. Like there was this one story of this kid. I think he was like 17. He was just walking from his first period class to second period, and then he was just gone. Like he just walked out the doors. I guess you do get kids that skip school, but they'd at least show up at their homes eventually. Well, turns out this kid wasn't into any bad stuff either. Just laid low, did his homework and showed up at school when he needed to. His parents were devastated, said it was a kidnapping, and now they're suing the school for not properly keeping track of its kids. Some rumours circulating through town say that they're running away to join some kind of weird new age cult thing. But you'd think if dozens of kids just left, you'd eventually see them somewhere, right? Like maybe all gathered around in some giant steel compound somewhere in the area or some shit. Other rumours were going around that there's some guy kidnapping them, taking them to some abandoned house and keeping them in a basement. I mean, not like any of these rumours matter. It doesn't exactly solve the missing kids problem, and clearly, the cops were doing a shit job at finding them. It sucks for the parents though, having someone ripped away from you like that, and having absolutely no idea where they left. The schools were overhauled big time. Like we're talking security guards monitoring the halls and guarding every single exit, having a check-in sheet at every class. Of course, the colleges didn't seem to be doing a whole lot because their students are adults. You can't exactly enforce lockdown rules there. But the security on campus, well, that got busier. Luckily, I'm not some kid in high school, so I wasn't affected by the curfew in town. It really made walking around the more busier locations much quieter at night. There's this lake with a trail around it. That's usually super busy during the day, and at night is when you see a ton of kids hanging out and leaving trash everywhere or ruining the peaceful vibe of the place. This was probably the third or fourth time I've walked the entire pathway around the lake during this time, and I much prefer it without the kids everywhere. The lake is about 2 miles outside the town itself, and right near the lake is a major river, and the pathway goes right near it, with some grass and plants between the river and pathway. Well, I was walking the path as usual, and normally I'm listening to music to drown out any noise from cars or people, but I realised it was super quiet that day. I pocketed my earbuds to listen to the silence, which around here is super rare. I took the opportunity to look around and appreciate the atmosphere and the nature of the park. But while I was walking, I saw this weird concrete slab sticking out of the ground on the other side of the river. I had never noticed it before. It was most likely some plumbing thing, but it seemed weird that it just sort of popped up overnight. On the hill, I could see this weird blurry figure. Not sure what it was. It could have been another slab, sticking straight up. I was walking on the trail, looking at this weird slab and figure, when suddenly I slip a bit on something on the ground. Looking down, I noticed it's a welcome mat. It had 4 paw prints and a sign saying, "Wipe your paws here," written on it. I thought it weird, seeing some random piece of trash like this in the middle of the path. But then I noticed that There was another mat nearby, underneath an opening of trees, near the river. It looked like it was placed like whoever put it there wanted me to notice it and wanted me to walk towards it, if that makes any sense. I walked up to the mat. This time it was a bath mat that was kind of shaggy and red. Looking up, I noticed another mat on the other side of the river. This part of the river wasn't deep at all. It was really shallow, actually, with the deepest part maybe going up to my knees. This was during summer and it was pretty nice out. I was wearing shorts, so wading into the water wasn't going to be anything too difficult for me. My curiosity was piqued, and I didn't figure there'd be any harm in looking at it. This mat was an outdoor welcome mat, but more generic and black. A couple of yards in front of it, going more into the wooded area, there was another welcome mat, and then another one beyond that, and then one beyond that. I followed along this makeshift pathway, ducking underneath low-hanging branches and avoiding any weeds. I wasn't too worried about running into any homeless guys or druggies or anything like that. Despite the issues in the town, there's not been any reports of crazy assholes causing issues. So, I figured the worst thing I'd find would be a bunch of teenagers gathering trash for some weird clubhouse shit. There was more garbage piled up the further I went into the trees. Cardboard, pop cans, even some old Power Ranger toys and Lego bricks dug into the mud. There were even some hanging from the trees with yarn and string tying the garbage to the branches. It reminded me of those makeshift security measures that you see in zombie movies and things like that. You know, where they tie beer cans to strings close together so they make a noise when you run into them. I tried to avoid making any noise myself as best I could, and I just walked around the trash. Eventually, I found myself in an open area, surrounded by trees. Just a plain grassy circle about half the size of a football field. Unlike the woods I just got out of, there was no more trash to be seen. The only thing I saw was a welcome mat at my feet. It said, "Welcome home." This mat was really just a piece of cardboard with random letters taken from cereal boxes. Honestly, I was pretty underwhelmed. I expected some huge treehouse or playground or something after following all that junk. I looked around the open grass, hoping to see something that would make this trip feel worthwhile. Unfortunately, I didn't find anything of interest. Just some rocks here or there, some weeds and dark green trees around the area. Funny, I didn't remember there being so many trees near town. I knew we had woods, but not really a forest or anything. Usually, there were small patches of trees grouped up near plains and cornfields. This place looked huge though, and the trees were tall, maybe a little darker than usual. Thinking back, I couldn't remember how long I was walking on that junk trail. Maybe 5 minutes, or was it more? I wasn't really sure. I couldn't really think about it. All I wanted to do was go home all of a sudden. I didn't want to walk any more than I already had. Luckily, I remembered that the area I entered from was just back a ways. There was a little opening between the trees in an area, and the welcome mat made a good landmark. I jogged towards the exit.
Don't go,
I darted around and looked behind me, seeing nothing. Must have been the wind or something. Then my ears started ringing, loud. It sounded like cicadas, but more concentrated in this area. Like they all flew to this clearing in the woods and sang just for me. Cupping my ears, I looked up and I couldn't see shit. Nothing flying or buzzing or nothing. Although, in the trees, on the other side of the clearing, there was something. Something standing straight upright. And then I saw another. And then another. They sort of came out of the trees around me. They didn't walk out. They just showed up. Like I turned around to leave, and when I looked back, there was more. It was like barely visible, but definitely there. They looked like people. 2 arms, 2 legs, a body and a head. But they were smooth. I can't remember, thinking back, exactly their characteristics, but they made me feel uneasy. I sort of just stared into the woods. I assumed it was more garbage that I somehow missed. Yeah, that's it. I had just missed some garbage. Just noticing it now. How stupid of me. Oh well. That's what I said to myself. That ringing continued, and it was beginning to give me a headache. I turned back around to finally leave. Don't go. This time, it sounded like a choir of people said it. Not a cheerful choir, or a choir made of multiple people. It sounded like one monotone person was talking, but dozens of times. My ears rang again, but more intensely now. My ears felt hot, and I couldn't force myself to take my hands from my ears. Every time I tried to turn and leave, that buzzing returned louder. And every time I turned towards the clearing, the ringing died down. I turned around once more facing the clearing. This time, however, it wasn't empty. There were dozens of them, standing around the area. Some of them were facing each other. Some were sitting. Some were staring at the exit. Now that they were closer, I could see that they had blurry faces. Like if you saw someone's face behind a curtain or something. Their bodies still looked hard, but not like concrete. It looked like something else, but I can't think of it. I turned around to run, and I noticed these figures all began vibrating violently in place. I didn't give a shit about the ringing anymore. I tore the earbuds from my pocket and I stuffed them into my ears, hoping that they might drown it out somehow. I spun around and I was bombarded with that ringing that turned into an immense buzzing. I ducked below the trees and followed that junk trail the way I came. I didn't give a damn what was behind me. I never looked back. I just ran on that awkward trail. I kicked away discarded pop bottles, toys, and even a small tricycle. I swatted the hanging string from the trees and slowly but surely made my way out of there. I slipped a little bit on one of those damn welcome mats and I smacked my head into a low-hanging branch. I slipped onto my back, and yeah, it hurt like a bitch. I looked around behind me, and the only thing I could see was a bunch of garbage. And then, one of the figures, with an arm raised. It looked small. "Bye," is all I heard. I got myself up, and I continued to run along the pathway and out of those woods, across the river, and back to my car, and then home. Apparently, the curfew was lifted, eventually. There's not been any more reports of missing people in months now. Unfortunately, the kids that had been missing have still not returned. The parents are still devastated. It really sucks for those parents, you know. Recently, I went back to the park. It's quiet still, but not because of any curfew. It's just cold out now, and there aren't a lot of people out this time of year. I looked over the pathway, across the river at the concrete slab. The figure that was previously there. They're both gone now. All of those welcome mats seem to be gone too. I guess maybe someone cleaned them up. I don't know what happened. But I think I'm going to avoid forest for a while.